Madam Secretary, I'm going to say it again, you're a lot smarter than me. But my mama didn't raise a fool, and if she did, it was one of my brothers.
It is the moment they all feared. For 25 years, the system thought they could hide behind jargon, excuses, and closed doors. But today, the game is officially over. Senator John Kennedy just walked into the room with the receipts, and he isn't taking no for an answer. You are about to witness a masterclass in savage accountability. Kennedy isn't just winning a debate, he's ending careers in 4K. But before we show you the final blow that left the room in total silence, smash that subscribe button if you stand with the truth.
Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Grime, am I saying your name right?
You are, Senator.
You argued the Calais case?
I did.
Okay, I'm going to tell you my understanding of the case, and then Mr. Cox, I'm going to ask you to tell me if Mr. Grime got it right, and Mr. Chamberlain, you can chime in if you would like. Are you familiar, Mr. Grime, with the Students for Fair Admissions case?
I am.
Okay, that's the case recently where the Supreme Court said you can't use race in college admissions. Now, here's what I heard the Supreme Court say in that case. I heard the Supreme Court say, look, colleges, we're not going to get into the admissions business. That's your business. We're just telling you you can't use race as a factor to admit anybody. Is that your understanding of the case?
Basically, yes. And they did a whole 14th Amendment.
Don't try to muddy the water to make it look deep, guys. I know you're all smart. I'm just trying to get to the bottom line. Am I wrong or right?
You're right.
Okay. Now, the way I read Calais is the Supreme Court is saying, look, first of all, these are political questions. And we're not going to tell the states how to draw congressional districts. We don't want to be in that business. That's a political question. We're just saying you can't use race as a factor. Is that what they did in Calais, or am I misunderstanding it?
That's basically it. You can use it to remedy, past discrimination that you've proven. But that wasn't the case in the Calais case. The other side didn't prove it.
Well, but once again, you're muddying that water, man. Did the court, or did it not, say that you can't use race to draw a congressional district?
In most cases, you can't unless the state, the person defending the map, shows that they had to use it because there was a showing of immediately past intentional discrimination, that they had to use race to unwind.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me whether he got it right, Mr. Cox.
Senator, quite frankly, the defense of the Calais case is such a tortured exercise. It's
Mr.
difficult.
Cox, I don't want to hear.
So I'm going to tell you what SFFA, how SFFA applies to Calais.
Did he get it right, or
he did not get it right?
Okay.
So in under application to discuss Calais, you have to really discuss what happened in the case that created the district that was challenged in Calais. That was Robinson.
All right.
The court required the state of Louisiana to redraw its plans pursuant to its findings of a Section 2 violation.
Look, I don't
That's
want to have a fight.
what justified the creation of the plan.
I don't want to have a fight. Can you just tell me, and you're smart, and I don't want to make this more complicated than it is. Tell me what he got right or wrong.
I'm telling you, what he got wrong was ignoring...
No, you're speaking like a lawyer, okay? And I'm tired of... I've listened to you gentlemen, okay? Let's just get down to it. Mr. Chamberlain, tell me what Mr. Grime got right or wrong.
He got it all right. You think I'm really going to tell the guy who argued and won Calais that he didn't understand what he was arguing?
Okay.
Sorry, I'm totally respectful. Yeah, obviously, I think he's got a good handle on it.
I understand that, Mr. Cox. I don't mean to be rude, the importance of precedent and all that, but didn't the Supreme Court say, except in very narrow circumstances, you just can't use race to help a person, and you can't use race to harm a person, and that includes in drawing congressional districts?
In answering that question, I'm going to tell you that the Robinson Court, which gave rise to the district that was challenged in Calais, said that there was a violation of the Voting Rights Act, that it was required to draw a district or draw a redistricting plan that satisfied the Voting Rights Act, that allowed African Americans to elect candidates of choice.
You don't want to answer
that's
my
what was
question,
challenged.
do you, Mr. Cox?
I'm answering your question.
No, you're not.
It may be an answer that you don't
No,
like
you're
and my
not.
colleagues don't.
No,
like,
you're not.
But I'm answering
You're
your
not.
question.
You're giving us another lecture, and this is not a common law class. Tell me in simple terms, is that not what the court said?
The court said a lot of things that were inaccurate. So that court said you can't use race at all in drawing plans. We disagree with that. But what the court really did was say that you can prove race you can prove there's intentional discrimination, which is in violation of this Congress's intent. It also sprinkled partisanship as a defense for any challenge to any challenge under Section 2.
All right, well, I'm about out of time. I can see no disrespect, Mr. Cox, but you're not answering any of my questions. And I know you're disappointed in the decision. But let me put it another way. Do you think race should be used to help a person?
I don't understand that question. Race should be used to help a person?
Do you think race should be used to help a person?
I believe that if there is a racial violation of the law, that race discrimination, I believe a remedy that's race conscious can be required, yes.
Do you think race should be used to harm a person?
I don't really understand what that question
No, I
means.
didn't think you would. Mr. Chamberlain, do you think it's fair in America to use race to help a person at the expense of other races?
No.
Do you think it's fair in America to use race to hurt another person?
No.
How about you, Mr. Graham?
Absolutely not. Race should not be used to help or hurt an individual.
And no disrespect to Mr. Cox. He's very bright. I can see that. And I've been where you've been. You know, when you get in front of a court of appeal and you're losing, you know, you want to kind of obfuscate. I get it. But that to me is what the court's saying here in all these cases. We're not going to try to run your business. Not in the college admissions, not in drawn districts. But you can't use race. Period. End of discussion. And I think that's what the Constitution says and what most Americans support. I know you're disappointed, Mr. Cox.
I'm not disappointed. I'm outraged.
But that's what the Constitution says.
Well, can I add one more thing that's
Sure.
not quite exactly addressing what you asked? I do think there's a role for a co-equal branch of government, Congress, to make its own determination regarding how it wants its laws enforced. And I would urge this Congress to reconsider Calais in that light.
Yeah, but you and I are both aware that the United States Supreme Court has full authority to pass on the constitutionality of a statute. Come on, you know that. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
If Mobile versus Bolden is any example of what can and can't happen, this Congress can take a look at Calais and say, actually, you got it wrong. And you actually didn't interpret what we intended in 1982 correctly.
The problem with your argument is I don't think race should be used to help a person because of his race. And I don't think race should be used to harm a person because of his or her race. And I think that's what most Americans believe. And if you don't believe the opposite, and you clearly do, this is America. You can believe what you want. But the Supreme Court is deciding these cases.
I hear you.
Saying race is off the table.
I hear you. And I believe as a civil rights lawyer that if you find a violation based on race, you need to craft a remedy that addresses that.
Sure.
Senator Whitehouse.
I'm sorry. I think God blessed Louisiana, and having blessed us once, God blessed us twice. We're located at the top of the Gulf Coast. Those of you who've been there know we're in the middle of the Gulf South. We straddle one of the mightiest rivers in the entire world. We've got more oil and gas than most nations. We're experts in things like petrochemical manufacturing and oil and gas exploration, aquaculture, agriculture, and education, healthcare. I could keep going, timber production. My people are, they're God-fearing, they're hard-working, and they're fun-loving. We're right next door to Texas. Texas gets a lot of good publicity. More power to them. But don't forget this. Texas is 5.5 times bigger than Louisiana. We're 10.5 times more interesting than they are. So I love Louisiana. But sometimes some of my people do dumb things. We're all human. And something just happened at Mardi Gras that turned my stomach. And let me say, I love New Orleans. I used to live in New Orleans. I practiced law in New Orleans. I met my wife in New Orleans. I raised my son for the first couple of years of his life in New Orleans. Wonderful city. We have this tradition called Mardi Gras. And it's not just one day, it's like several weeks. And people from the entire world come to celebrate with us. Name me another city, any city, that just shuts down the entire city for one day in the middle of the week to just enjoy life. And we celebrate together. Every race, every religion, every socioeconomic class, we're all together. And we have parades. And these floats are big floats. You know what I mean if you've been to New Orleans and have seen Mardi Gras. But if you haven't, these floats these are big puppies. They're anywhere from, 30 to 60 feet long. And they're tall, anywhere from 13 to 18 feet. And crew members, each parade is organized by what's called a crew. It's like a club. The crew members ride on the floats. And they throw beads. And they throw toys. And some of them throw coconuts to the crowd. And the crowds are lined up by the side of the street, 8, 10, 12 feet deep. All flavors of humanity. Throw me something, mister. Throw me something, mister. But if you're a float rider, I've only done it once. One of the first things you're taught is to be careful. Because these beads, maybe a single strand of beads is not that dangerous. But a lot of people on the floats throw beads in groups. And a coconut, whether it's a single coconut or several, I can tell you, is a mighty missile. And so you're taught to be careful where you throw and try to throw to people when they see it coming. Because otherwise, if you get hit in the face with a bunch of beads or a coconut, you're going to get hurt. You can lose an eye. I've had it happen to me. It's dangerous. And they teach the float riders this. Now, we have a lot of our cops. We have to borrow some cops from some other counties, we call them parishes, to come help us. Because there's some jackaloons who misbehave at the parades. So we have a lot of our cops out. And I think it was this past weekend, I want to get the name right, we had a crew of the crew of Carrollton sponsored a float. Wonderful people in the crew of Carrollton, one of the oldest crews we have. But there were some knuckleheads on one of those floats. And they were taking bunches of beads and trying to hurt the cops with them. Now, the cops are not looking at the floats. The cops are looking at the crowds. And the cops are watching the people to make sure they don't have too many cocktails and try to run between floats and get run over. And the cops are watching the children because we have a lot of our kids. We bring a lot of our kids. The cops are not looking. They're not going, throw me something, mister. They're doing their job. And 41 people on one of the crew of Carrollton floats were throwing beads and toys and other stuff trying to hit the cops in the face. And it wasn't just one or two. It was disgraceful. The police had to shut down the parade, to their credit. They shut her down. And they pulled all 41 people off this float and said, you're out of here. And the cops did the right thing. And it's embarrassing for me to have to say this, that this happened in my state, in my city, but it did. Now, the mayor's issued a statement. Thank you, Mayor. Hadn't heard our city council say a word, not a peep. That doesn't mean they hadn't. I apologize if I missed it. And it's no secret that many of my people in New Orleans think that cops are a bigger problem than criminals. This is America. You can believe what you want. And a lot of people, we went through the defund the police, jackassery. And a lot of my people in New Orleans, it's a sanctuary city. I know they say they're not, but most of my local law enforcement officials don't cooperate with ICE. They think the borders ought to be wide open. I don't. It's against the law. But this is America. They can believe that. But you can't hurt cops. And these 41 people, after receiving due process, if they did this, they shouldn't just be disciplined. Oh, you can't ride next year. They need to prosecute. And the people in New Orleans need to demand it. Acts have consequences. And you don't have the right to hurt cops just because you don't like them. I've said this many, many times. I get in trouble every time, but I believe it. If you hate cops just because they're cops, next time you get in trouble, have at it. Call a crackhead and see what happens. See if they'll protect you. So I'm sorry this happened. I want to apologize to the people, the good people in New Orleans, for these 41 skillet heads who did this, allegedly. I want to apologize for the people of America who've read about this, or who saw it, came down to love on my city some. But I don't want to ever see this happen again. And every one of those 41 people ought to be prosecuted and then made to hide their head in a bag for their entire prison sentence. Mr. President, I'm done. All right, I've got a couple more. I promised you folks that you could talk about your district salaries and expenses project. Give us a 30 or 40 second overview like you're talking to a 10th grader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The way that the Corps of Engineers has received funds from Congress and budgeted has been by project, year over year. We have 39 civil works districts across the country. That's the large part of our staff. The headquarters footprint is very small. Our workforce is spread out. The way that we pay the salaries of those employees is by allowing them to bill to the project. So every project has a labor cost, the cost of the people that are working on that project, and a delivery cost, like a contract to execute the project by.
I get it. How do you want to do it differently?
The FY27 President's budget recommends separating the labor costs from the project costs, both to give you transparency so that you understand what portion of each project is tied to labor, as well as to break the incentive that we believe exists between there's a tension between project delivery and district sustainment that we want to break.
So you're doing it for transparency reasons, is that right?
That's correct, sir. That's one of the reasons.
How is it going to be more transparent if you just have a new entry that says salaries?
Well, Senator, it's because...
How are you going to know what salary goes with what project?
Well, Senator, in the previous way that was budgeted and appropriated, there was no information about salaries, none whatsoever. It was just the project. And so it's more transparent, and then it pulls the salaries out of the projects. That before, it was just a project cost, and there was no bifurcation. And so that's why it's more transparent, because it provides more information. This is a rare case where the executive branch is excitedly sharing more information with the legislative branch.
Well, will you have internal data that shows how much salary is attributable to a particular project?
Yes, Senator, we've published that information for fiscal year 26 work plan as well as the fiscal year 27 budget request. We've shared that information with your committee, and we've also briefed your committee staff on the back-end accounting system that can track it over the course of time so that we can keep up with project costs.
Have you shared that information with all the members of Congress about the projects in their districts?
Senator, in sharing the FY27 budget request, we shared it, and we have published the split, and we've shared it with every relevant committee in Congress and anyone who's asked.
Okay. So as I understand it, Mr. Secretary, right now, there's no column for salaries and expenses.
That's correct, sir.
It's attributable.
For the districts, that's correct.
Right. It's just included in each project.
That's correct,
right?
sir.
And now you're going to break it out.
Yeah,
Go ahead, General.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're correct.
It'll still be by project. So before there was one lump sum for each project. Now it'll be for the project delivery, the contract, as Mr. Tell spoke to, and then the internal use labor. But it'll still be by project broken out that way. So each project you'll see what the in-house labor bill is.
Okay, so for each project, labor and expenses will still be a line item.
Senator,
But in terms of the budget, salaries and expenses will be have its own category. Is that right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
How's that going to help the Corps with its overall missions?
Senator, it's going to help the Corps by incentivizing delivery. What I've heard from commanders in the field is that they're.
How does that incentivize delivery? I'm not doubting you. I just don't understand how.
Well, today, it is, as I said in my opening statement, when a commander sees that a project that's a cash cow for that district is going to continue next year, it solves a lot of that district commander's management challenges with his staff because the funding continues and continues. And if the funding expires, quite often Congress will appropriate additional funding. And so projects become lines of revenue for districts, and someone has to make the business decisions about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing for the district. That tension, if we eliminate, if we take that off the table, that idea that we need to keep projects alive to keep the district healthy, it will solely focus our commanders and our workforce on delivery. That's how it incentivizes delivery. Today, there's an incentive for projects to be extended or to pull projects off the shelf that may not.
But, Mr. Secretary, you've got that data right now, don't you?
Yes, sir, we do.
So you can tell, can you not, when a district manager's gaming the system?
Certainly, in theory, we could and we will going forward. But this question had never been asked before.
What question is that?
The question about how much, at scale, the question about how much of our project budgets were going towards salaries.
I just don't understand how coming up with a new line item for salaries and expenses is going to make our lives better if you already have the data anyway.
Senator,
except it's not listed in the budget.
You're absolutely, in many ways, you're correct. We have the ability administratively, even if you appropriate the way that you've previously appropriated, we have the ability administratively to build what I would call a cardboard firewall between salaries and expenses and project costs. What we're asking the committee to do is help us build a brick firewall so that the demonstration throughout the leadership in Washington is that we're serious about making sure we account for project costs and labor costs, and we can make rational decisions on each side. Right now, that commingling, if we don't go all the way with the Appropriations Committee, our partners here, in my view, that commingling will still ultimately find its way through that cardboard firewall.
All right. I'll be glad to read anything you want to send me. I just don't get it. Sounds to me like it's a distinction without a difference. But maybe that's my shortcoming. Senator McCallum asked for an additional 15 minutes to make my remarks.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I want to spend a few minutes talking about a couple of different topics. First, I want to try to explain to the American people what's going on around here. Some people are going to try to tell you, American people, that what we're engaged in is a rational discussion of how to use scarce taxpayer dollars to fund the Department of Homeland Security. Now, that's not true. Wish it were. The Department of Homeland Security is about to shut down. We don't know how to get it back open. What does that mean? It means ICE will be shut down. We've got some ideas about how to keep it operating. They have enough money. It means TSA will be shut down. They're not going to be paid. That'll impact airport travel. Coast Guard be shut down. FEMA, God help us if we have a natural disaster, it'll be shut down. What's about to happen is top of the list, king of the hill, number one, stupid. And it's happening just not because of policy. It's happening because of raw gut politics. If you could see what I see, your gag reflex would be permanently triggered. Here's what's going on. The Karen wing of the Democratic Party is in control of the Democratic Party. And the Karen wing of the Democratic Party, not all Democrats, but there's clearly a Karen wing. Sometimes I call them the loon wing. They have gone to the Minority Leader Jeffries and my friend Senator Schumer and said, don't you vote for that Homeland Security bill. Why? Because the Karen wing of the Democratic Party wants to defund ICE. Now, we've seen this vampire movie before. The Karen wing of the Democratic Party also wanted us to defund the police. How'd that work out for us? The criminals are still laughing. Now they want to defund ICE. And Senator Schumer and Minority Leader Jeffries, two good men, they've made a bunch of unreasonable demands that no person with a brain above a single-cell organism would vote for. It would put handcuffs on ICE. That's just a fact. And they know that. I'm not going to vote for them. Sure not going to vote for them with a gun to my head. Now, but I'll tell you the reality. We could go to Senator Schumer and the Minority Leader in the House and say, okay, we accept every one of your conditions. The Democrats still are not going to vote to keep DHS open. I mean, I don't blame Senator Schumer for trying, but he's kind of wandering around here like one of those Roombas. He looks like a man who's lost his luggage at the airport. I mean, he's making these demands, and if we accepted them, we're not, but if we did, he couldn't deliver the votes. Because nobody on my side of the aisle wants to defund ICE. And that's what this is all about. And some of my colleagues are trying to pretty it up. Lots of play acting. They might be a little late for getting their name in for the Academy Awards, but maybe next year. They're trying to muddy the water, make it look deep. Like we're having this discussion about efficiencies at the Department of Homeland Security. Nope, very simple. The Karen wing of the Democratic Party has told every single Democrat, if you don't vote to shut down DHS, if you do vote to fund ICE, we will punish you politically the rest of your natural lives. That's why we're about to have a shutdown. Now, this stuff isn't complicated. Here's what I think most Americans believe. Illegal immigration, Mr. President, is illegal. Duh. If none of us are above the law, I believe that. I bet you believe that. If no one is above the law, how come people in our country illegally are above the law? Immigration statutes are not some second-tier laws that you can violate without consequence. It's the law. If you don't like it, change it. I believe in enforcing our immigration laws. Now, how you enforce them matters. By God, you better believe it matters. Those laws have got to be enforced in conformity with equal protection and with due process and in accordance with standards set forth by the United States Supreme Court. I think it was 1968 in a very famous case called Terry v. Ohio. Cop can't stop you unless that cop has reasonable suspicion, not probable cause, reasonable suspicion to believe that you have committed, are committing, or is about to commit a crime. It's not subjective. It's an objective standard. And our cops, including but not limited to our ICE officers, have to follow it. Now, you can protest. That's fine. That's your right to protest. You don't have the right to protest violently. You don't have the right to harass an ICE officer. You don't have a right to spit in his face. You don't have a right to threaten his children. You don't have a right to get his home address and go to his house and try to harass his family. You don't have the right to block the street so the ICE officer can't get through. You don't have the right to kick out a cop's tail light. You don't have the right to go burn Christmas trees. You have the right to protest, but not violently. Because you know what? Two reasons. Violence undermines the morality that you say your movement is built upon. Dr. King knew that. That's why he wanted nonviolent protest. Gandhi knew that. President Mandela knew that in South Africa. Violence undermines the morality that you say your movement is built on. Now, there's a second reason that you can't protest violently. It's against the law. And it's bone deep, down to the marrow, stupid. If you act like a butthead with a cop or an ICE officer, it's not going to end well. It's not going to end well. Here's a little tip. It's free. Cops will leave you alone unless you do illegal stuff. And that's what this debate is all about. I hope we get it worked out. I don't want to see flights stop. I don't want to see FEMA not be able to respond. I don't want to see the Coast Guard have to shut down. But the Karen wing of the Democratic Party is the cause of this. And they're going to have to accept the fact that the law is the law, or they're going to have to get the votes to change it. Because the American people see immigration like they see the front door of their home. Most Americans lock their front door at night. Why do they do that? They don't lock their front door at night because they hate everybody on the outside. They lock the front door at night because they love the people on the inside. And they want to know who's coming into and out of their home. And that's the way the American people see our borders. Legal immigration, great. We admit more people, more of our world's neighbors, to come to America and become part of us every year than any other country. And the whole world knows it. That's why everybody wants to come here. When's the last time you heard of somebody trying to sneak into China? I want to come here. It's called legal immigration. But you can't jump the line. You got to fill out the forms and be properly vetted. You can't just come in. Now, President Biden didn't follow the law. That's why we're in this mess today. We don't know how many people he let in. I'm not saying they were all bad people. I don't know them. That's the point. We don't know who they are. I don't even know the number. Anywhere from 8 million to 15 million. Some of them were bad people. But we don't have the slightest idea who they are. And we don't know where they are. And that's why we have the rule of law. And that's why we have ICE. And that's what's going on.
In the ports of entry, but that's not your experience, is it?
No, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Kennedy?
The bad guys are using drones. Does anybody disagree with that? Okay. And the federal government has the authority to fight back, does it not? But state, nobody disagrees with that statement? Sure, Professor.
I would say within limits, yes. Within constitutional limits.
Okay. Do any of you disagree with giving state and local law enforcement the authority to fight back?
Again, within constitutional limits.
Okay. Tell me what your constitutional concerns are, Professor.
So I have three primary concerns. The first has to do with the Fourth Amendment and the conditions under which a warrant is required and a general warrant is forbidden by the Fourth Amendment. So in this particular case, it's important.
Professor, before you give me one of your lectures, are you saying that we should require state and local law enforcement to get a warrant before they fight back?
It depends on the condition. So in an exigent circumstance or something along the border.
I'm aware of the exceptions to the warrant requirement. But you, generally speaking, you want to require them to get a warrant.
Only for the search of a device or the seizure of property. There are also due process implications of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You started to mention another one of your objections.
First Amendment.
First Amendment. Okay. Any others?
Yeah, I also have a state rights, a 10th Amendment concern here, which is that states own the airspace adjacent to the land within their state that's not federally owned, and the current federal provisions don't recognize state sovereignty in that way.
So you want to give state and local law enforcement the authority to fight back, but you want to list a whole lot of conditions. Is that a fair assessment?
Not a whole lot, but some. There needs to be a nexus to the facility. It can't be any drone anywhere in America if you're concerned about a particular facility, but right now it's too broad. There have to be acknowledgments of First Amendment concerns. So for instance, limiting the covered facilities to the experience and logic test with which the courts use for right of public access, or prohibiting media bans across the board, or setting a time limit before and after special events so they don't extend extensively. This is what a number of state measures already do, and I'd like to see that at a federal level and apply to bring this within the constitutional limits.
Sounds like a lot of conditions to me.
No, not very many. As long as there's probable cause and the conditions are met, then absolutely you can.
Have you ever heard of a legislative practice called loving a bill to death?
Yes.
Okay. And that's when you take a bill and somebody says, I'm really for this bill. But then they add so many amendments and they screw it up so badly that the bill either becomes ineffective or doesn't pass. Is that a pretty accurate description?
Of the term?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're trying to love this to death, aren't you?
I disagree.
You're not really for giving law enforcement the power to fight back, are you?
I am in favor of giving law enforcement that power and respecting constitutional limits.
I don't believe you, Professor. Okay? You're not talking to Bambi's baby brother here. Okay? I've read some of your stuff. I think you'd be more intellectually honest if you just come out and say, I'm on the side of the bad guys here. I think we shouldn't give state and local law enforcement the authority to fight back. You're trying to make it as hard as possible, aren't you?
We'll have to disagree on that point, Senator.
Nah. You know, you ever heard the expression, watch what they do, not what they say? I've watched what you've done. I know what you believe. Or you're on the FISA court?
I'm not on the court. No, I'm an amicus for the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court and the Court of Review.
Okay. Were you there when you guys issued all those bad warrants against Trump's people?
I can't discuss my work on the court, unfortunately.
Oh, it's top secret, right? You'd have to put me on the American people on double secret probation if you told them the truth, wouldn't you?
No. I can't discuss my matters that I've handled before the court. I can discuss the public ones where I've dealt with First Amendment concerns and the right to petition. I did an extensive history looking at that right
I'm done,
to petition.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Kennedy. We're going to turn it over to Senator Blumenthal.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
I believe you have a policy, Madam Secretary, that you have to approve all contracts at your department over $100 million?
No, sir. I have a policy in place that I review contracts. My deputy chiefs have the ability to review anything under $5 million. Above that, I evaluate and look at.
Okay. And you do that, I understand, to try to curb waste and abuse of taxpayer money. Is that right?
Yes, sir. In fact, it's been extremely effective. We've saved the taxpayers over $13.2 billion just by evaluating contracts, negotiating lower ones, and canceling ones that aren't necessary to do our duties.
How do you square that concern for waste, which I share, with the fact that you have spent $220 million running television advertisements that feature you prominently?
Sir, the president tasked me with getting the message out to the country and to other countries where we were seeing the invasion come from, with putting commercials out that told them that if they were in this country illegally, that they needed to leave, or we would detain them and remove them, and they'd not get the chance to come back to America the right way. That has been extremely effective.
Ask you to run these advertisements, is that right?
We had that conversation, yes, before I was put in this position and sworn in and confirmed, and since then as well.
Okay. Did you bid out those service contracts?
Yes, they did. They went out to a competitive bid, and career officials at the department chose who would do those advertising commercials.
And the people that you ended up picking were people who had formerly done your political work back in South Dakota. Is that right?
No, that's not correct, sir.
I think it is.
No, it's not, sir. The individuals who, I believe the careers who they chose were two different media firms. There's been conversation about their subcontractors, but we have no legal authority to look into subcontractors on work like that.
Okay. And you're saying that you're testifying that President Trump approved this ahead of time. Is that my understanding?
We had conversations about making sure that we were telling people.
No, ma'am. I'm asking you, sorry to interrupt, but the president approved ahead of time you spending $220 million running TV ads across the country in which you are featured prominently.
Yes, sir. We went through the legal processes, did it correctly.
Did the president know you were going to do
OMB.
this?
Yes.
He did?
Yes.
Okay.
And one thing, Senator, I think would be helpful to know is how effective that communications has been. That
Well, they were
overwhelmingly
effective in your name recognition. I mean, I personally just, I mean, to me, it puts the president in a terribly awkward spot. And and I'm not saying you're not telling the truth. It's just hard for me to believe, knowing the president, as I do, that you said, Mr. President, here's some ads I've cut, and I'm going to spend $220 million running them, that he would have agreed to that. I don't think Russ Vogt at OMB would have agreed to that. It's something we have to defend. I'm on the Appropriations Committee. My research shows that you did not bid them out, that you pick, in fact, one of the people you picked, the strategy group, Safe America Media was a company formed 11 days before you picked them, and that the strategy group got most of the money, and the head of that is married to your former spokesperson. Look, we all have friends who are qualified. I'm not quibbling with that. It troubles me. A fifth to a quarter of $1 billion of taxpayer money when we're scratching for every penny and we're fighting over rescission packages. I just can't agree with, Madam Secretary. Are you still running those ads?
No, Senator, I did not have anything to do with picking those contractors. No politicals at the Department of Homeland Security did.
I understand. Are you
Career
still running
officials
those
followed
ads?
the competitive bid process for
Are you
that.
still running
Everything
those
was,
ads?
I think the ads are due to end here in March, I think within a week or
So
two.
they
I'm
are
not sure of the
still running?
update. The one that is running is focusing on angel families. Have you seen that? It is the one that's talking about this is our why. This is why we work every day.
Okay.
Is for the angel
I've gotta
families
move
and their
on.
victims that need to.
As the silence settles in the Senate chamber, the weight of the evidence is undeniable. We watched the stuttering, we saw the panic, and most importantly, we saw the fear in the eyes of those who thought they were untouchable. Senator Kennedy didn't just expose a secret today. He reminded us that common sense is a weapon. DC wants you to forget this video by tomorrow morning. They want you to stay distracted, stay quiet, and stay in the dark. But after what we've witnessed today, that is no longer an option. The receipts are out, and the betrayal is caught on camera. Drop a comment below with the word savage if you stand with Kennedy. Your voice is the only thing they can't manage or silence. If you're ready for the truth, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video with everyone you know. The game is over for them, but for us, the revolution of truth has just begun.